Have you guys seen that Washington Post article written by a woman who studied civil s'mores for the last 30 years? The woman being interviewed had studied Civil War in many, many countries. A political science professor at the University of California at San Diego, and wrote how Civil War starts and how to stop them. She was asked when her perspective changed, and she talks about how her dad immigrated from Germany in 1958 and he had been through the war there, and that he had always been a hardcore Republican. She said at some point she began to go home and see that her dad, who was not agitated easily, was constantly agitated, and all he wanted to do was talk about Trump and everything he was seeing happening. She said he was really nervous. It was almost visceral. Please tell me Trump's not going to win. And I would tell him, Dad, Trump's not going to win. And he's just like, I don't believe you. I saw this once before and I'm seeing it again. And the Republicans, they're just falling into lockstep behind him. People who've been through this have been trying to warn everyone. And even this woman, who was studying Civil War for a long time, dismissed her father at the beginning. She talks about dismissing him, and then she talks about the parallels he made between the brown shirts and the attacks on media and education and books. And then she talks about watching them double down on a white supremacist strategy. She gave a speech at a college about how this could possibly be the beginning of a civil war, and people said that she was fear-mongering and that she was incorrect. So after she thought about it, she realized that she didn't frame it right, because they were picturing the first Civil War here and assuming that that's what a civil war would look like today. But a civil war in the 21st century would look far different. I'll be talking about that in Post 3. But to do this, they need to gain soldiers rather quickly, and we, unfortunately, have 20 years of soldiers returning from war with experience. She says these alt-right extremists and violent extremists benefit from the element of surprise. She said in talking to people who had been through it before, they were surprised because they didn't know the warning signs. She said in some of these places they would find paramilitary groups in the hills outside of the cities they were getting ready to attack, and when they've confronted them, they would just say, oh, we're just here to protect you, or we're just doing training, anything to divert. She says the reality is we need to talk about it because they're continuing to organize and continuing to train. And that there are definitely lots of groups in the far right who want civil war. And she says they're preparing for it. But she says these people are far right extremists. And I have to add that I know some not so far right extreme Republicans, and they're also preparing. Post number 2 will be about the CIA write-up for insurgencies. And in post number 3, we'll talk about what civil s'mores would look like in the 21st century. I have family members who are Republican, and they have stocked up on guns and ammo and taken shooting classes. They're not extremists, not even by any stretch. But the scary part is this Republican Party has convinced them to be excited about this. And they are.